All right, we're gonna head over to the pigs. You ready for pigs?
Sure.
I need to get the fork. You have your keys?
Yeah.
Okay. Every farm's got to have a tractor, right? Good morning. I know, girl. Did she? Yeah. Probably trying to get that stuff off. Huh? Yeah. Good morning. Hey, girl. Hey, baby. Yeah, this is your poop. Yeah, yours. Yours. You should come in and see, maybe you can. Hey, girl. Yeah, I know you're big. How you doing, Meads? All right, you want to switch? You want to see if you can get this and I'll get them, because they're playful this morning. Yeah, I know. Hey, big girl. Hey, love. So these guys, they just like to say hello. And they love belly rubs, which is why they're on the ground. And they get a little crazy in the mornings because they're hungry and they had some rest, so they just like to play. And they will eat your boots if you give them a chance. Hey, Amp. Hey, Amp. So these guys are probably about 7 to 8 months old. And we've got a few different types. So we've got these white pigs here. These are Chesters. We've got this one here is a Hampshire. And then the 2 black ones are Berkshires. So we're trying to figure out the best breeds for us to raise. And these guys here, these are actually all sold. So we're raising these for other folks. And these will eventually turn into pork. In fact, we've got the first group that are gonna be going to the processor in 2 weeks from today. So we raise them we get them about 2 months old, and then we raise them for about 6 or 7 months so that they're basically butchering weight, and then we bring them to the processor. Hi, girls. And yeah, they're for other folks. So it's kind of tough because we get pretty close to them. But, you know, the reality is if you're gonna eat meat, I think, and you make that decision to eat meat, I think, knowing where that comes from and the reality of things is important. It's important to us. So as bittersweet as it is, it's the cycle of life. It's the reality for us. So we've got manure piles here. Well, we got 2 things that happen. So, we try to integrate all of our animals with the farm itself and the growth on the farm. So obviously, when it comes to growing food, which is our goal, the animals are food because we choose to consume meat. So, but at the same time, they help us to grow other crops. So we try to integrate all of this. So we have them in a confined area, a large enough area that they can get plenty of exercise and they're comfortable. So what they do while they're in here is they do like any other animal. They're gonna go to the bathroom, and so they'll urinate here, which is a great nitrogen source for us eventually on the ground. The majority of the manure will pull out of here. However, there's still some that gets worked into the ground. So we've got that going on with this ground here that eventually will grow in. And then the majority of the manure we pull out and we compost. So you'll see this here, this is unfinished compost. So this is just pig manure and wood chips You'll see the wood chips in the background there that we have that get delivered for free. So we pull the majority of the manure out, we mix it together with wood chips, you'll see here in just a second, and then this composts down over the next few months, and then we'll use this to fertilize the 170 or so fruit trees we have here on the farm so far right now. Here, I'll get this. I think they're done attacking my legs.
They want to talk to you, though.
So pig manure, like any other animal, that includes humans, honestly. Just obviously we got other issues with human manure, but it's very high in some of the key nutrients. Nitrogen would be one of them, but also, you know, your typical fertilizers have NPK, so they've got nitrogen, potassium, things like that. And manure is an excellent source of all those as well. And at the same time, there's a lot of microbial activity that is in manure, and it encourages that microbiology that trees need in order to really thrive and uptake nutrients. Really, any manure has that in it. Pig manure is no different. So now pig manure, the challenge is pigs and their intestinal system is very similar to us as humans. And there is bad bacteria in there at the same time. So one of the reasons that we compost it down and when we utilize it on the farm around fruit trees is you need to give that a long time to compost down and get rid of the bad bugs so that we keep all of the good bugs for the trees. So the microbial life, you know, the nitrogen and those kind of things, all of those are in pig manure, the same as chicken manure and anything else. And the reality is, unless it's chemically made manure or chemically, okay guys. Hey girls, I know you're excited. I know you're excited. But the reality is, a lot of your organic fertilizers, really the majority of them, are made from things like this, chicken manure, pig manure, and those kind of things. Hey girl. You guys are playful. I know. All right. Did you get that side yet, sweets? Yeah, but I want to get this all mixed this morning. So you'll see Lori was spraying down the pen. You'll see them, they scratch a lot. And we got a lot of challenges here that we're still trying to figure out in the desert. But obviously it's very, very dry. So their skin gets very dry and the dirt and everything around them is really dry. And one thing with pigs is they can get lung issues. And so having anything that's kind of flying into them that they're breathing in, we try to limit that as much as we can. So kind of like when you're, you know, if you're in Arizona and you see any construction site, you'll always see them spraying water to try to keep the dust down. So we try to do the exact same thing for the pigs. So a few times a day, we'll come out here and spray all of this down. At the same time, that helps to take some of the manure and keep the manure on this ground, because we will grow on this ground once we move the pigs off of it. But that's the reason why we spray that water down. We want to keep the dust out of their lungs as best we can. There's still going to be some in there, but if we can limit that at all, we try to. I know you guys. Okay, I think it's time for me to get this turned.
Often called the mushroom of the gods, lion's mane has a long history of medicinal use. This popular nootropic has been shown to enhance focus and increase cognition, helping you feel more productive and accomplished. Research studies have also shown that lion's mane is neuroprotective, giving you peace of mind as you power through your day. Try lion's mane and experience the mental clarity and productivity boost you've been missing.
All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm turning what's eventually going to be compost. So we've got the new manure that we just put on top of here. I've got a wood chip pile here. So what we try to do is mix these about 50-50. And if you were to smell these guys and the raw manure, it's pretty strong. I mean, you're really gonna have, that, that poop smell. Once you mix it in with the wood chips and you water that down, you basically eliminate that smell completely. So another reason why we pull a lot of the manure out, obviously we're gonna use it elsewhere on the farm, but we mix it with wood chips so it helps to keep the smell down. Because obviously, when folks come over to visit, we wanna make sure that we're not inundating them with that. But also all of this compost that we're creating here is gonna be used around our fruit trees and the rings around our fruit trees. We won't put this on vegetable crops. We have wood chips around our trees, and the mycelium, the mushrooms basically, that form around the wood chips to break down the wood chips are also beneficial to the fruit trees. So we mix the manure. You have to mix those in about a 50-50 ratio for this to considerably start to break down. So we get the nutrients out of this and get the benefits on the fruit trees. And in order to do that, you gotta mix it. So we do that by hand. So we use, so as far as water, obviously we don't have city water out here, so we also don't have city sewer. So we keep everything on site. Water comes out of the ground, which is what people in Arizona have used for decades. And out here in Whitman, we have a protected aquifer. So we use well water that we bring up out of the ground. The static water level is about 420 feet or so, and that doesn't vary much, a foot or so each year, from year to year. And our well goes down about 600 feet. So we bring water up out of the ground, and we utilize that on everything here on the farm, including the farmhouse. So what's nice about that is it's very, very clean water. At the same time, it's a protected aquifer, so we can only use so much water. So we're restricted on how much water we can pull out of the ground. And our goal over time with a lot of the practices that we use here is to use less and less water as we're able to kind of absorb more water into the ground and keep it here and essentially start to recharge and help to recharge that aquifer. That's probably a lot more information than you wanted to know, but that's where we get our water. And then of course, the water mixed with the wood chips and the manure is what allows the manure itself to break down. It also encourages that mycelium, the mushrooms, that will help to break down the wood chips. So that's that whole composting process with just the wood chips, the pig manure, and then water along with air each time we turn it. So you can see you basically just put this, you put the manure in the compost pile kind of into a mound. So we usually clean up the manure out of the pig pen 2 or 3 times a week. We were doing it every day until they got big and the pile got bigger. But I basically formed this so it's easy for us to just spray this down with water basically every day to keep it as moist as we possibly can. I try to flatten it a little bit so it's easier for us to toss the manure during the week on top of it. And then you just saw the process of that, like the complete turning every week. And then, so eventually it'll go from what you're seeing here, which is really, really raw, to what we have down here. We had the exact same thing that you see down there, which is just the raw manure and wood chips. This pile has been sitting with just basically a wood chip cap, and then we water it a few times a week. And what happens is it goes from that to this, and hopefully you'll pick this up because it's kind of cool to see if I can find the worms for you. But there we go. So basically it goes from what you see down there to something that you basically never see in Arizona automatically or very easily, and that's worms. So we have a lot of worms that are in this pile, and worms are very beneficial for a lot of different things. But if you were to smell those pigs right now and what comes out of those pigs, you would never do that with your nose. And this just smells like amazing, amazing compost. And this is not even completely broken down yet. So this still to be fully composted would take another probably 6 to 8 months. It's only been composting here for about 2 to 3, but it's loaded with worms that are helping to break down the organic material, which is basically the pig manure, so the poop. That's what they're eating right now. And worms spit out what's called worm castings. So basically the worm poop is worm castings, which are really expensive. If you're a gardener, you know this. You go to buy those worm castings in the store, they're extremely expensive. And here we use our waste stream, which is the pigs pooping with wood chips. In here encourages those worms, which help to break down the poop and excrete their own, which is amazing compost for gardens, and for us in particular, it's for our fruit trees. But you can see this is starting to break down, already smells like just amazing soil, and it's just, it's turned into the good stuff. Obviously, when it comes to our morning chores, we kind of wrap up with the pigs. We feed the pigs once a day, and that's usually in the evening. Because they're only gonna be with us for a few more weeks, to keep them from getting like too oversized, we limit the feed to some extent. So we'll feed them tonight, but I think they're good. They got plenty of water, so they're in good shape. Real quick, while we're here, so this is where we originally had the pigs, in this smaller area here. So when we bring them onto the farm, they're about 50 to 60 pounds. So they're little guys. They're like this big. You could carry them, not easily, but you can. So we had them in this smaller area originally, and they were here for the first several months. And the manure and the urine that they left behind in the ground is actually what we're now growing our cover crops in for the summer. And a cover crop is basically just, it's plants that you put in the ground that basically help to condition or prepare the soil for crops later on. And so what we have over here is we have several different types of cover crops that we're testing, because our challenge in Arizona is, we have this crazy weather. We have freezing temperatures in the wintertime, and then we have astronomically high, very, very dry temperatures in the summertime. Our growing seasons are a little funky. So for us, we watch and follow a lot of farmers on YouTube and things like that. But for the most part, everybody is farming in more arid regions. Most people are farming in more like typical weather, that you've got, your typical growing season is usually spring through fall. They've got their seeds they plant in the spring. They start bringing in chickens and livestock in the spring. They grow all through the summer, which is the beautiful time. It's beautiful green. For us here, it's totally opposite. So, we have, we're finishing our growing season now. So we basically grow from fall through spring. We bring in livestock in the fall through the spring. And then we have that kind of winter time, which is our summer. So when everybody else is truly wintertime in the winter and nothing's going on the farm or growing in the wintertime, for us that's summertime. But the challenge that we have with the type of farming that we're trying to do is we have things like cover crops that we need to figure out how to get those through the summer and into the fall when we actually start our major production. So what we're doing over here is we're testing several different types of cover crops. We have alfalfa, buckwheat, cowpeas, we have sorghum Sudan grass. We do have a little bit of corn that we just threw in there, but we're testing all these out here in the spring to see what we can get to actually survive and thrive during the summertime, that we can basically tamp down come fall and then plant directly into this ground in the fall when we actually would start a lot of our major crop production. So we've been in Whitman since 2014, and we actually had another property that's about 3 miles from here, just east of us here. And we know the new owners, but we put 100 fruit trees in there, and that's kind of how we started. That was kind of our gateway drug, was fruit trees. And actually that dates back to about 2012. But we put 100 fruit trees in the ground there that are now about 5 years old or so. So they're these big, massive trees, and these guys haven't quite caught up. So we started planting trees just over a year ago. So we put our first trees in the ground here on March 22nd of 2020, and we're here at the beginning of April of 2021. So the oldest trees that we have are these trees that you're seeing right here, and these are our peach trees. We have, let's see, at least 3 different varieties of peach trees. We're thinking there's gonna be at least 5 to 6 by the time we're done. But right now, these are 1-year-old trees. When they started out, they were just sticks. So this tree right here is a Florida Prince peach tree. It is probably our favorite tree for us here in Arizona as far as peaches go. Just an amazing clingstone, which just means the pit itself on the peach stays attached to the flesh, so it doesn't pop out real easy if you were to cut it in half. But just an amazing sweet peach. So this tree, when we planted it, was about the size of this branch, if you can pick that up. So we had this branch in the ground a year ago, and it's turned into this here in Arizona. So one of the things that everybody always asks us when it comes to fruit trees is, what do you do to keep the sun from killing them? And the answer is really nothing shy of water. So we do water them, but when it comes to the tree itself, it needs complete, full blazing sun. It does best when it's in complete sun with absolutely no shade whatsoever. So peach trees grow very, very well here in Arizona. You can see the amount of growth that we have here in 1 year. A lot of areas of the country, so your typical climates, you would have maybe 1 foot or 2 of growth, and we have about 6 feet of growth out of this in a single year. And remember, these go dormant during the wintertime, so there was absolutely no growth whatsoever for the most part the last 4 months or so. So the majority of this growth was actually in about a 6-month or so period. This side, we call this our western orchard because it's on the west side of the property. So on this side, we have 33 trees, and we have the irrigation that uses our well water that I'm going to show you here in just a second, because we do something a little more unique with our irrigation to conserve water and make sure the trees get enough. But you can see the 33 trees we have here. Now we have a handful of trees that are newly planted, so we've planted them here over the winter time, are just starting to come out of dormancy. And all dormancy means is the trees drop their leaves in the wintertime, and then here in the spring, they come back and start to set fruit, and they start to grow branches and leaves again. So we have a combination of trees that are a year old and need a certain amount of water, and we have little trees that are brand new and need a specific type of watering. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the irrigation in some of these trees. So one of the things that we do while we're out here, and we walk these every day, is we take a look at the trees. There's an old proverb that the most important thing in your garden And the best thing for production is the gardener's shadow, and I think there's definitely something to that. But when it comes to fruit trees, they're pretty easy. But when we first come out of dormancy, we get a lot of times what's called sucker growth, and that's down here at the bottom of this tree. So on a fruit tree, you have basically a rootstock, or it's a certain type of tree that's grown by itself. And then what they do is they chop that little tiny tree off, and then they stick the known variety or the type of tree that they want inside that trunk. And then that tree grows into this specific type of tree. So this one here, what is this? This is our nectarine. So this is a specific type of nectarine tree that we have growing here. The rootstock is actually a type of almond tree, and then it's your base. And then from here, that graft point where the rootstock is, from here up is our nectarine. So we want the nectarine to grow and make nectarines for us, but what we don't want is we don't want almonds competing for the growth, because this rootstock will send out shoots, that's what you see here, from the base, and essentially start taking over the nectarine tree, and we don't want that to happen. So when I see these little guys growing from the bottom or from the rootstock, we basically just pull these off. If you let those keep going, eventually this will actually take over this tree, will turn into a random almond tree that probably won't produce fruit for us. This tree is still establishing a canopy, which is where the branching and leaves are at the top here. And you'll see that we have this painted white. And everybody always asks us why the white paint. And the main reason why we paint these white is we're trying to protect this trunk from sunburn. So we have intense, dry sun that will be on this tree for the next several months until we get into the fall. And it'll actually burn the trunk and potentially kill the tree. So this white tree trunk paint that we actually just buy from Home Depot will actually keep the trunk protected until the tree has a big enough canopy and can protect the trunk on its own. So that's the reason why you see this white paint on these trees. A couple years from now, when these are just nice, big, beautiful, massive trees, we won't paint those trunks anymore. You guys saw the peach trees back there, so we've got basically all of our different types of stone fruit are in this western orchard. And stone fruit basically just means that you have a single pit inside the fruit. So that's what that term stone fruit means. So you have peaches, we have nectarines, which are just a fuzzless peach. We have plums and plum hybrids. We have apricots, and we also have some almonds in the back. So like this tree here, you can see this is actually a hybrid, and that's not GMO, it's not some type of weird, crazy thing. A hybrid just means it's a mix, a natural mix of two different types of fruit, but both of those are stone fruit. So this is a mix of a nectarine and a plum. So they basically mixed those two together when they were pollinating. So they mixed the pollen from one type of tree to the flower of another, and they came up with this hybrid. And you can see the leaves on this newly leafing out tree are totally different. It's purple, and that actually comes from its plum parentage. So this is a nectarine and a plum, but the purple leaves are from the plum. The fruit itself will look something like a mix between a nectarine and a plum. So it's pretty cool. And then you can see this cage. So one of the things that we're finding out here, kind of on the edge of nowhere, it's the farm name, is we attract a lot of life. And you guys can see all the green growing around the trees, and that's because of our irrigation and the way we run irrigation. And we also attract different types of wildlife. And the first thing that we attracted was rabbits. And we have cottontail rabbits. We also have jackrabbits. And when we first planted these trees, we noticed pretty quickly that the rabbits were immediately attacking the trees and basically started munching our trees down to nubs. So what we did is we started using this hardware cloth around the tree to protect the tree and the tree trunk specifically from those rabbits. And since we've had those in, we haven't had any issues with the rabbits getting to our trees. So we can allow the rabbits to come onto the farm, because the benefit to rabbits is rabbits, well, they poop and they pee. So one of the things with the rabbits is they come in, they start eating the things around the tree. Well, they're putting manure down for us, and rabbit manure is fantastic fertilizer for your fruit trees. So we want the rabbits, but we don't want them eating our fruit trees. So that's our compromise with the rabbits that we attract onto the farm. We'll give you something to eat, just leave our fruit trees alone. We try to integrate a few different things. So for me, I'm not an official permaculture guy, but I try to incorporate a lot of those ideas into how we're designing the farm, because we had a blank slate when we started. So we have the front of the farm here that has evergreen trees in it that Lori really wanted as people kind of drove up into the farm. As they start to get nice and big, that's just beautiful green. You can hear the chickens behind me. And so we have our laying hens that we let out onto the pasture, but we also keep them protected because we have a lot of predators out here. Hawks, we have coyotes, we have some resident owls here on the farm that would try to eat the chickens because everything likes chicken. But we have the coop and run that we keep them in most of the day. And we need to take into account the fact that they can't handle direct sunlight. So we've done some shade cloth behind us here, but long term, we don't want to have to utilize something like shade cloth. So what we've done is we've planted everbearing mulberries here on the western side of the coop and run area. And these trees grow very, very quickly. They also give us amazing production as far as fruit production. In fact, this tree has hundreds of small fruit on it. Each one of these branches is just completely loaded with fruit. So this one branch alone probably has at least 100 mulberries on it. They'll get about the size of a dime, and they're just starting to ripen up right now. I thought I saw a ripe one. Oh yeah, here we go. So this will give you an idea right here of a ripe mulberry. So that is a ripe mulberry. Now this is tiny, so these everbearing mulberries are small. We've got other varieties like a Pakistan mulberry that'll be much, much bigger. But this is very similar to a blackberry if you've ever had a blackberry before. The difference is there's basically no sour when they're completely ripe. And then of course you just eat them right off the tree. Really, really good. So then this tree, it's been in the ground for a year. And it was a stick about this size when we put it in the ground last year, and it's grown into this. So we prune them back in the wintertime, they come back in the summer, and because they're on the western side of our chicken coop and run right here, as these start to get bushy, which they'll do over the next year or two, they'll actually start shading our chicken coop and run area right here, especially during the summertime, because this is a deciduous tree, loses its leaves in the wintertime, puts on leaves and branching in the spring through fall. This will get nice and big and shade our coop and run area from the western sun coming in this way during the summertime when the chickens need the shade. And then during the wintertime when the sun is in the southern part of our sky, these will lose their leaves and the chickens don't need the shade back here. So again, kind of a permaculture technique. You're basically utilizing something that's gonna give you production, it's gonna give you shade. And oh, by the way, the chickens love these leaves. So we can utilize this as a fodder tree, and fodder simply means something you feed to animals. So we can utilize this tree during the summertime when it's overgrown. We can start cutting and lopping branches off, throwing them to our chickens, and eventually to our goats and our sheep, which would love to chow down on these as well. Our farmhouse is about 100 feet from us here, and in permaculture lingo, this is all zone 1 for us, so it's things that are immediately around the farmhouse that we go to every day. We need to collect eggs from our chickens every day, so we see this whole area every day, and we also generate compost from our chickens, so that is actually right over here. So we have 20 chickens, 20 laying hens that we keep on the farm year round. And obviously chickens poop a lot. So we want to utilize that waste stream here on the farm and keep it here on the farm. So you can see we have our chicken manure right here that we clean out from the runs every day. We put them into this pile, and once a week I'll turn this and water it in. This is basically just chicken manure and nothing else that's basically aging. And we utilize this as a fertilizer in our garden beds and also around our fruit trees. So very, very high in nitrogen, which is extremely important, especially for the greening of your trees. So to have this as a free source of fertility for our trees, again, integrating that into the farm and utilizing a waste stream. So obviously we're in the desert and water is a precious resource and we don't take that for granted. So we do everything we can to take care of our animals, take care of the wildlife that's coming onto the farm, and utilizing water wisely. And one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of permaculture and that integration that you have with livestock and different systems is to try to keep everything that we can on the farm and keep everything healthy. So we've got a couple things going on here. When it comes to chickens here in Arizona, there's a lot of folks that raise chickens out there and they ask us all the time, what do you do to make sure that the chickens don't get stressed out or die during the summertime? And people do misting systems and all kinds of cool stuff to keep their chickens cool. But we found that there's a couple key things that you really need. The first one obviously is shade. They need to be able to get out of the sun. And the second thing is water. And they cannot run out of water, like ever. So for our 20 chickens, we have a rain barrel watering system that we designed. So we have this 50-gallon drum that we fill with water regularly and keep it nice and full. And then we actually have it so that it's piped into the chicken coop and run area, so the chickens always have access to water. You guys want to hop in here? All right, girls. Hey, girl. You guys scoot back? I know. Okay, you can come with me. So this is where we have all of our laying hens. They kind of hang out most of the time, especially when we're not out on the farm. And you can see this is the other side of our watering system. So we have these cups that are basically plumbed into this 1/2-inch line that comes from the rain barrel right outside here. These cups fill with water automatically, so the chickens always have access to fresh water. So we'll dump the cups out once a week or so, and they always have fresh, clean water. And then you can see we have a coop designed specifically for the desert. So again, back to keeping chickens alive and safe during the summertime. Obviously we have the shade, but we also have a specific type of coop that we designed out of pallets. So again, utilizing a resource, those pallets delivered materials for the home build. So we kept those pallets and turned them into a completely open coop. So we have their water here, we have their feed here. We also have oyster shells here, and you'll see it's underneath this roof. So we've got this nice enclosed area here where they can get some shade. They have plenty of water. And then the last thing that we do as far as that's concerned, it's not hot enough today, but once we get up to about 100 degrees or so, we'll have chicken pools that we'll keep for them, which will basically allow them to stand in the water and cool themselves down. And that's basically all we need to make sure we keep all of these chickens alive through the summer and thriving through the summer. And we have yet to lose a chicken to our summer heat. It hasn't happened yet. And we've been raising chickens now for, I believe, right at about 3 years. This is our open coop that we have right here that we designed. So a lot different from how people would have their coop designed in pretty much the rest of the country. They're more concerned with the cold, the extreme cold in the wintertime. We don't have that as an issue. The issue that we have is we need to keep these girls cooled down during the summertime. So you can see this is completely open. We never seal this off, never enclose it completely, so they can stay nice and cool, and they're plenty warm during the wintertime. And we also utilize roll-out nesting boxes. So you can see our chickens are in here right now in their nesting boxes. So we use these roll-out nesting boxes to help keep our eggs clean. We do sell eggs, mainly to friends and family, but we want to make sure the eggs are nice and clean. And so you can see she hasn't laid an egg yet, but she's getting ready to. Hey, girl. Oh, yeah. So all we need to do to grab an egg is open this lid here, and we've got a clean egg here from one of our chickens, which I'm gonna leave in there because I don't wanna disturb her too much because she's trying to lay an egg right now. Right now in the wintertime, we let all of our laying hens go out onto this pasture that we're starting to establish. And when chickens, first of all, when you see them on a pasture, you can see that that's just where they're supposed to be. It's where they're designed to be. I mean, they're out there scratching, pecking around, they eat bugs, they eat seeds, and they also eat all of the greens. So we have a few different types of greens that we put into our pasture mix. Things like alfalfa, clover, We've got all different types of weeds that grow in there naturally. And you can see we have our chickens out there now, and they're actually eating the greens that are on the pasture. And the greens, actually, when they're eating greens like that, it totally changes the egg itself. So, you know, if you have an egg you buy from the store, the yolk is kind of flat, it's yellow, sometimes it's kind of a pale yellow. Well, our eggs are almost an orange color in the yolk. And what that is that's actually like a beta carotene, basically, that is very beneficial to us, but highly, highly nutritious. And the yolk itself is really, really tall. So you can totally tell the difference in the way an egg looks when it's out on pasture. And it's got this just amazing creamy consistency that you just can't get if you're getting eggs from the grocery store. So we love having them out on the grass as much as we can. So we let them out anytime we're outside, which is a lot. These birds are on that pasture. So we have this whole area here is our chicken pasture right here at the front of the farm. So it's about 6,000 square feet. And we have our laying hens that are on this, obviously during the wintertime and during the summertime. But during the wintertime, we actually raise broiler chickens on here as well. The pasture is our biggest challenge. You know, we're still trying to figure out what we can do in this mix to allow us to have green for our laying hens during the summertime, when basically all the other types of grasses and things we have growing in here start to die. What we're really trying to figure out is what we can get to go through the summertime and not have Bermuda grass, because we don't want Bermuda grass that kind of overtakes everything. Plus, we want things that are more nutritious for the chickens. But we have our broiler chickens you can see back here in this tractor. So that tractor is not my design. We got it from a guy named John Siskovich. He's on YouTube, and we got his plans to design that tractor, which has worked really well for us. We've done 9 rounds of broiler chickens here over the last few years, and we've always had them on pasture, which they really prefer, because they'll pound the food, because broiler chickens do, but they'll also eat the greens, which completely changes the way the chicken itself tastes. It's tremendously this strong chicken flavor that some people think is strange, because they expect chicken to taste like nothing. Kind of the joke that everybody uses is, what does snake taste like? What does crocodile taste like? Well, it tastes like chicken, but it shouldn't. So chicken should taste like chicken. And broiler chickens raised on pasture taste like chicken. So it is a nice, beautiful, strong flavor, and it comes because they're where they're supposed to be, which is out in the open and on pasture. Now, we need to protect them because we have hawks, owls, coyotes that would love to eat chicken, because everything loves chicken. So we have to keep them protected from that. But they do wonderful out here on this pasture. The breed that we use for our pasture chickens is the same breed that you would find like if you go to the grocery store. Of course, it's gonna taste a lot different, but it's the same breed. So they're designed to grow very, very rapidly and have a lot of breast meat, which is kind of what we're all sort of used to. Our laying hens are totally different. And you know, in the past, you had chickens that had some breast meat, but not a lot. Most of the meat was in the thighs because they run around all the time. But these are a lot different. So they grow very, very fast. They take about 8 weeks to go from a little baby chick that we actually have shipped to us in the mail, to go from that baby chick in the mail in a brooder to full size, about a 5 or 6 pound chicken, a really, really big chicken, in about 8 weeks. And they spend week 2 through week 8 out here on the pasture, on the grass. We keep them in this tractor. These are called chicken tractors. All that simply means it's a mobile pen, and we move this every day. So what happens is we have the chickens in there now. They'll eat a lot of food. They will put manure down on the ground. You can see where we moved them from yesterday. There's a tremendous amount of manure down here. And anybody who's ever grown a grass knows that the most important nutrient that you can possibly have for a green grass is, well, one of the most important nutrients you can have for green grass is nitrogen. And chicken manure has a heavy amount of nitrogen in it. So this looks dead, but you give it a week with some water, and this will come back and just be this amazing, strong green color. So again, back to integrating. So we have our chickens that are on our pasture. that are fertilizing our pasture as they're on the pasture. It allows the grass to come back and all of the green to come back. That gives us our laying hens something green to munch on after they've moved off of it. And then in the end, we have the chickens that we have for ourselves and for our customers. We're gonna talk a lot about water because we're in a desert, so water is important. We get water, we get rain here, although it's pretty rare. So we get, a few inches a year, usually less than 10 inches a year. And when we do get rain, it comes kind of all at once. It's not usually spread out over a week or two. So we get these heavy torrential rains, and so what we're trying to do is everywhere we can is to capture that water and allow it to penetrate into the ground. A lot of benefits there as far as that's concerned, and we want to try to keep the water on the farm. So for all of our buildings, we're starting to design passive rain catchment, which basically just means we're grabbing the rain when it happens and we're putting it somewhere. We're either holding it or we're putting it into an area that can hold it. So what we did on the house and on our outbuilding is we have rain gutters that we installed. It captures all of the rain that comes onto the house. And then we have the downspouts here that are actually connected to underground piping. So I have basically a 4-inch sewer pipe right here that goes underground. And then as we come over here, you're gonna see there's weeds here for a reason because we got rain a couple weeks ago, about 1/2 inch. So we had a lot of rain that came down at one time. Well, a lot of rain for us, and it came into this catchment area. So that pipe terminates right here. We dug this out, so there's basically a swale or a low spot and then a berm that comes up. And wherever you have that, you're gonna get growth like this. So you can see here, there's no green here, and there's green that's starting to grow here. And that's because the water came here and it started to penetrate into here. Now you'll also see over here, this whole area here is our vineyard garden. So we have grapevines, table grapes and wine grapes that we grow around our main garden beds that you'll see right over here. So for all of our grapevines, we have a drip irrigation system that runs here to water the grapevines. And you can also see that we have heavy wood chip mulch down here. That is about 6 to 8 inches of wood chips that will capture the moisture that we put on the ground and keep it down near the roots of the grapevines. In addition, when we installed this area, we also dug a trench or a swale in front of all of these grapevines. And what happens is the water comes from the house and goes into this area here, into this swale. It spills out this way. It'll spill completely across this area here. And the swale that's underneath this wood chips, or the trench underneath the wood chips, actually holds that water under the wood chips and it starts to penetrate down into the ground. So that water stays here under the wood chips, helps to water our grapevines, and then of course you can see we start to get green here in the desert with something as simple as catching it off the roof and passively pushing it over here into this area. Obviously we've been here on this farm for about 1.5 years, and prior to being here it was just open desert, as you can see all around us. So everything that you're seeing here wasn't here a year ago. The only things that we had prior to October of 2019 was the chicken coop and run and the house. Everything else that you're seeing here has been put in the ground. We've put into the ground or onto the property in about the last year or so. Still a lot of things that we're trying to get done. You can see our vineyard garden. That's what this is here. Most of these beds are going to be for annual vegetable production. And then of course we have the grapevines that surround it. So again, back to just kind of design. This area here is something that we'll be in every day. So this is zone 1 for us as far as permaculture is concerned. We're gonna visit it every day. We have some of our winter veggies that are wrapping up right now. We've pretty much finished most of that harvest. And a lot of these beds we haven't even put into production yet. So what we have is we have wood chips, soil that we brought in. We have wood chips that we wet down about once a week to start establishing the soil in these beds. And we have all of this just directly off the farmhouse. So it's not very far for us to look at it and touch it every day. When we're designing all of this, we're trying to design it with that in mind. You know, how often are we gonna be there? How often do we wanna touch it? If we wanna be there every day, it needs to be close to the house so that we don't get lazy and not go and touch those things we wanna see every day. So it's kind of hard to imagine now, but this whole area here, these grapevines will turn into just these massive, beautiful walls of green. We use traditional trellising, like a vineyard trellising. There'll be there's a 3-foot wire here. That's what the vines will grow up to and form a trunk. And then they'll grow between that 3-foot and 6-foot space, and they'll produce grapes for us. At the same time, they're giving shade to the backside of these garden beds. So in the summertime, when we have vegetable production in those summer beds, we have vines that are up here 6 feet tall, and in the late evening, those beds on the backside will actually start to get shade from those grapevines. The same is true on the opposite side. So in the wintertime, when we're growing and we don't want to have any shade, all of our grapevines drop all their leaves, so that sun penetrates right through and hits those beds in the wintertime, and we can make sure that we get nice vegetable production in the winter. So one of the challenges that we have out here is, you know, green and water attracts life. So we have already resident birds. We have a lot of coyotes. So one of the reasons you see us protecting our chickens so well, because they would eat the chickens. And we really have a life cycle that we're starting to see. We have bees and other pollinators because we keep water we keep water available for them. We have resident owls. We got at least two resident owls that we have here on the farm that feed on the mice and the rats, because we have livestock and we have feed. So where you have those two, you're gonna have mice and rats. Those actually help to control the mice and rats. We have rabbits that come in because we have a lot of green around the farm, so we protect our trees from the rabbits, but at the same time, those rabbits attract coyotes and other predators. So that whole life cycle we're starting to see. We also have doves that we have year-round, quail that we have year-round. We started seeing another bird, it's called a killdeer, that you don't normally see in like the Phoenix area, but we had killdeer that we saw on the farm. We have lots of finches. We have probably 100 finches at least that are permanently here on the farm. And one of the great parts about all of that wildlife, and we do encourage it, is you really start to see that life cycle, and we really become a part of that life cycle. So it's kind of a special feeling to see life unfolding around you where there was none. And that's just kind of a cool thing for us. So we can't talk about fruit trees and growth like this without talking about water and irrigation. So we use well water here that we bring up out of the ground, and we don't take that for granted. We are limited on how much we can draw out of the ground, which in my opinion is a good thing, because we don't want to run out of water. So while we need to water our trees, we want to be mindful of how we're doing that. And the goal eventually is to be able to use less and less water as the trees get more established. So at the same time, we're still planting trees. We have trees like this that are just over a year old, and we have brand new trees that we just planted here in the last month or so. So how we have to water a small tree and how we have to water a large tree are quite a bit different. So what we've done is we've designed a ring that goes around the trees, which is pretty typical, but we use a double ring, so it looks like a donut. And we use a channel that channels water into the inner ring when the tree is small, and then the outer ring as the tree is bigger. So the way we do our irrigation is we have an irrigation head that's inside this irrigation valve box cover, and that irrigation head is a bubbler head. So we have PVC pipe that's underneath the ground that we have running from a central location, and we have automatic timers on these that will adjust based on the season. There is a 1/2 gallon per minute bubbler head inside here that actually fills up the ring that you can't see. So we fill the bubbler head, or we fill the valve box with rocks to keep rodents and other things from digging dirt up in and around the bubbler head, to keep the bubbler head free from dirt. And then we have rocks. You'll see your typical just landscape rocks right here that we have immediately around this area. And what these do is these act like a French drain. And all that is basically the water that comes out of this bubbler head and just kind of pours over the bubbler head. It flows through the rocks and then down into the rings that we have around this tree. The reason for the wood chips is we get a tremendous amount of evaporation because the air is so extremely dry here in Arizona. And so we put heavy, heavy wood chip mulch. In fact, this wood chip mulch is probably 8 to 12 inches deep. Hard to tell, but it is. So the water flows underneath and through the wood chips down into the ring around the tree. And as it's watering the tree, we watered this tree a week ago. So it has had no water, no rain, very dry, 95-degree temperatures. And as I dig down into these wood chips, you'll see that these wood chips are totally different. So, oh, I love that smell. I can't describe that smell unless you've just had this amazing garden soil before. It smells like a forest. But basically you can see these wood chips look just like this, not a few months ago. And with once a week, we are now actually starting to create soil right here for this tree. So not only do we water the tree, we're actually establishing soil life. All right, so if you're kind of a geek when it comes to this stuff, you gotta smell this stuff. And I am. So not only are we we're watering the tree, we're starting to establish soil, but more importantly, I've got worms in here. So these worms, because there's moisture down here, and as the material, the mycelium and the mushrooms start to break down the wood chips, it starts to create things that little guys like this love to eat and feed on. And because the moisture is consistent down here with the wood chips, I have these worms that are now taking this material and continuing to break it down. And worms, they create an amazing material for your trees as far as nutrition is concerned, and worm castings or worm manure, worm poop. That's being created right here, right around the tree. So this tree is basically always getting some type of fertilization, and we really don't have anything to do with it. They do it themselves. I've got 2 or 3 right there, 3 in my hand. I mean, how many people in Phoenix would kill for that, right? I mean, we just don't see that in Arizona. It just doesn't happen, and it's happening here naturally. So all these trees we air layered off the old farm. So we had ever-bearing mulberries on the old farm, one of them, and we basically just created another tree from a stick is all air layering is. But we took all these as air layering cuttings off of the trees, the one tree from the old farm. So we brought these, put them in pots, grew them out, and brought them here. Now on the old farm, we actually had worms that were established. So when we brought these trees over, we had all of our potted trees we brought from the old farm sitting on top of wood chips right here. So that brought those worms with us from the old farm and basically seeded some of these areas with a few worms. And now what we're doing is basically maintaining that. So everywhere where we can take that original material from the old farm, we transplanted basically in all of these different areas. And then we create an environment that worms really like, and they stay there. We have 6 acres that we're on here on this property. We bought it, actually our 3-year anniversary of buying the land is this month. We moved on to it in October of 2019, and we're actually only farming half of that. So we're on actually just under 3 of the 6 acres. So we've put in all of this temporary fencing, and the reason why we have it back here is we have free range cattle that will come through. And of course cows, anytime they see green, they're interested. So we're required, it's actually our responsibility to keep the cows out. It's not the rancher's responsibility to make sure our trees don't get eaten. So we have barbed wire fencing that we put up around the property. So as we come back this way, you'll see we have all of our fruit trees here, protected from this fencing here. Now the way the property is designed is we have kind of a 5-acre rectangle that goes like this from north to south. So north would be here to south. And then we have a 1-acre parcel that's right over here that we own that's directly attached. And that 1-acre parcel will eventually be for all of our small livestock. So we'll have sheep and goats in that area. So this is one of our pomegranate trees. You can see just loaded with flowers. And pomegranates are super, super easy to grow in Arizona. And this tree's been in the ground for a year. It was basically a couple of these sticks, and it's grown into this. We keep them caged because of the rabbits and the rabbit pressure that we have, but you can see it's just pouring out over the top of this cage. And each one of these flowers, assuming it gets pollinated, turns into a pomegranate. that'll be ripe in December. We really try to encourage wildlife because, again, we want to be part of that life cycle here in the desert that we're starting to see unfold. And you can't have any of that without water. So we learned pretty quick that wherever we had water, animals were attracted, and we don't want them necessarily attracted to our fruit trees, especially in the beginning. They were starting to dig up our irrigation areas and chewing on our irrigation and stuff like that. So pretty quickly we decided, okay, we need to actually designate some places for wildlife to come in. So it's not official, but we have a couple of basically just concrete mixing trays that we got from Home Depot. This one's seen better days because it's a year in the sun. But we basically keep these water tanks full, so water troughs full, and those are specifically for wildlife. And we have turkey vultures that we get by the hundreds that come here. We've got a big wash that's just east of us here. So they'll come in, and I'm assuming they come in for mating or something because they come in by the hundreds and they roost in that wash, and then they're gone after about a month. But we noticed this summer, we had this water tank out here. We've got another one on a different part of the farm, and we would have 30 or 40 of these huge turkey vultures all over the water tank, just kind of hanging out back here. So that was amazing to see, and something you just definitely don't see in the city. And then of course we have everything else comes back here. So coyotes come back here. We have our owls that we have here on the farm. They come back here to drink. We have rabbits that come back here. There's always birds on these. So we really are trying to encourage them away from our fruit trees as best we can and give them something to drink, because that keeps them here and we get to see that life cycle. So we've got kind of a front half and a back half to that main 5-acre parcel on the property. You can see we have it cut off here with some barbed wire. So the majority of our veggie and annual crop production will be on this front half of the farm, so closer to the farmhouse where we're going to see it every day. And then most of our livestock, the larger livestock that we don't necessarily need to visit every day, will be back here. So we've got this back half, so it's about 2.5 acres that's back here that will eventually be for larger livestock, so things like cattle. And we won't keep very many, but we'll have a couple of steers that we'll bring in. And we'll do that each year during the winter through spring growing season, our primary growing season. We'll bring them on here for farm fertility because they'll help us fertilize the land, and we'll rotate them as we go to keep them on small patches, to put a lot of manure down, and eventually have wild growth that will come as we get rain. So we'll have weeds and different types of greens that will come up in this whole area right here, and they'll come up naturally. So we won't irrigate that area, mainly because number one, we can't, and number two, we don't want to try. But we want to start establishing this whole open desert area for larger livestock. In addition, back here, you're going to see we get wood chip deliveries here. So there's a couple of free resources. Chip Drop is one, you can find them online. And we have had them come out here and do some deliveries. We also have a couple of landscaping neighbors that are down the road that we've run into, and they bring us wood chips when they have them. So we've got a lot of wood chips that we've brought onto the farm, and we utilize the wood chips in a lot of ways. We utilize them around our different growing areas, especially fruit trees, again, to help keep moisture down. And that pile, when it does rain, it actually holds that moisture down in the ground as well. So that pile is actually helping to keep water on the farm now, and it will continue to do so as we move it around the farm. So as we turn around and we face north, you'll see the farmhouse in the background there and our outbuilding back there, the grapevine vineyard area, and you'll start to see our orchards. So we have our stone fruit orchard here on the western side that has all of the stone fruit in it, and you'll get a really good view of the irrigation. So the underground irrigation that we run is a PVC irrigation. It comes from a Wi-Fi controlled control panel. So I can actually turn irrigation on or off with my phone. And you can see how we have the rows set up so that we can really kind of condense the area that we have our orchards in, and really eventually have just this amazing food forest that's going to develop on either side of the farm. So we'll have food production there, we'll be trapping and holding water there, and this will also be a windbreak for the other production that we're gonna do on the ground here. So these trees grow taller. We have winds that come either from the east or the west typically, and those will basically block the wind from some of the smaller vegetable production so that we don't get real heavy winds on some of our smaller, more fragile crops. So when we were kind of laying out how we were going to do all these fruit trees, we did keep in mind cross-pollination. So and what that basically means is you have flowers on trees, and those flowers need to be pollinated by bees usually. And certain trees need to be pollinated by another tree. So we have a tree here that's actually a plum cherry hybrid, and it doesn't have flowers on it now because it already flowered. But we have a plum cherry hybrid here that can't fruit on its own. So the tree right over here is actually what pollinated it. And you can see there's still some flowers on this one, but it's just about done. So what happened is these flower at the same time. Bees will go from here to there, will pollinate that tree and pollinate this one at the same time. So we get fruit on that tree and we get fruit on this one. So we have another pollinator that's over here close to this one as well that pollinates a couple of our other trees that are back here. We have apricot and apricot hybrids that are apricot and plum hybrids, and that tree pollinates that. But what I wanted to show you is the fruit that's on here. So this is a plum tree. It's a burgundy plum tree. It's been in the ground for 1 year, and we won't let this fruit stay because it'll have a hard time ripening the fruit, but we have a bunch of small fruit on here. So we'll let these get just a little bit bigger than this, and then we'll pull them off the tree, which is always kind of hard for us to do. But for those first 2 years, we don't let them fruit. But baby fruit, little plums here that are kind of all over the place. So yeah, we gotta make sure we get some of these little fruit off of here. So I'm pulling some of these plums, these little baby plumlets, off of here. And the reason why is because these trees, for the first couple of years, they'll try to put on fruit, but they really need to concentrate on root development. You know, obviously we got a harsh environment out here, and we don't baby our trees. They need to be able to survive the harsh environment with the couple of things that we give them. So for those first 2 years, we really want them to concentrate on root development and also canopy development. We keep the tree trunks painted, but we need to make sure that the tree can support its own weight. It can support the weight of the fruit, and obviously the tree itself can grow really well. So we remove the fruit the first 2 years to make sure it's not putting any energy and effort into trying to ripen the fruit, because it will basically stop doing everything else, stop growing branches for the most part, stop really concentrating on root growth to get these to maturity. And the reason why is because this is how the tree reproduces. So it wants to set this fruit, it wants to drop that fruit so that it can reproduce. So we let them get to about this size, maybe a little bit bigger. We pull them off the tree so it can concentrate on establishing. And then if you can imagine, this thing's probably got at least a dozen plums, maybe 2 dozen plums on there. Sometimes you'll get 2 dozen plums on a branch like this. By the time those ripen up here over the next couple months, this branch would start trying to drop down to the ground, and we don't want these branches breaking off. These are important because all of these leaves, obviously through photosynthesis, they actually create the sugars that will go back down into the roots and allow the roots to grow. So it's very important that we get leaving and branching out on these trees to establish those roots so that in the long term, we have a lot of fruit production off of this tree that, of course, we get the benefit of.
With 10 different mushroom species packed into the most delicious gummies you've ever tried, this bottle has it all, including favorites like maitake, shiitake, lion's mane, reishi, and cordyceps. You'll experience a powerful blend of beneficial compounds that support healthy cognition and increased energy levels. These gummies are of the highest quality and efficacy, making them the perfect choice for anyone looking to perform at their best. Designed for a productive lifestyle, it's the easiest way to include all the benefits of mushrooms in your day.
All right, with the chickens that we let out on pasture, we do need to get them back in. They're run at times when we're not going to be out here. So we did early on, we trained them to scratch, which I'll show you guys, but they actually will usually come when I just kind of call them. So we're going to see if that'll work today. Come on, girls. Come on, girls. Come on. Go around. Come on. then we've got our little doggy door that we put in to let them in and out of here, which I'll go through and lock. So that's just chicken scratch that we use they know it's a treat, so they know they're gonna get that when I call them in. So they usually have no problems coming in. All right, so this is our eastern orchard, and we do have the first 9 trees back here are fig trees. 5 of those 9 trees we did air layer from the other property, so we brought with us. And then another one we got a cutting from a friend that we potted and propagated ourselves. Then we bought the other ones. And then going through, after the figs, we do have a quince tree, one of those that we just planted this fall. And then we go into jujube trees. So we do have 3 jujubes that we also put in. And this is kind of our pome fruit area going up into here. So we like figs. We eat them fresh. We do freeze them to make wine. We do use them as far as apple butter we make in cooking. So we do like fig pizza. You could do fig sauces and marinades for different dishes. Chicken, pork is really good with fig. They do great here in Arizona, grow very quickly, and get tons of fruit. We've gotten hundreds of fruit from our previous fig trees that we have. One thing, birds do really like the figs as well, so we do have to protect them. Instead of netting the whole tree, we do just use organza bags to protect them from the birds and hope that we actually get some of them. All right, we'll go through. Got the next few trees here, like I said, are a quince tree. We got a few jujube trees that are all still really small because we just planted them, like I said, this past fall. And then we go into our pear trees. So we do have like a regular pear, and then we also have Asian pears that we're growing here. A couple of them are still not out of dormancy. I think they're just starting to come out of dormancy. Like this one is just now starting to leaf out, so it's finally starting to wake up there. And then the pear trees, they do kind of more of a vertical growth. So we let them grow that way versus being wide and bushy. So we actually, before when we were having our house built here, in our other house, we actually started plotting out how we wanted it all set up. I think Dwayne had touched on the whole zones for permaculture. You know, your zone 1, 2, 3. So we did just map it out on a whiteboard. We changed it numerous times. We just kind of wanted to it's set up a certain way as far as we wanted orchards on both sides of the property. So we had green all around us, and just kept light trees together, trees that need to pollinate each other together. I personally think it's better to plan it out, because if you start just putting trees in, you end up with a spot that you might think that, oh wait, if I want to put that here, I should have put it over here next to this other tree. So it was good for me to plan out because I'm pretty organized when it comes to that, and I want all my light things together. So you can see I had all of our figs together, where if I just started putting trees in, then they could be everywhere. And I like a whole little forest of figs or apples, which is up here. We have, I think, 15 apple trees, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different varieties, I believe it is. Most of those spring apples. We are trying a couple of fall apples. And we do have, all the trees on irrigation, so we have it set up in zones. And then these, you can kind of see it's the bigger rings to where we have that outer ring that it waters, as well as the inner one right now for these younger ones. And then we do have our well in the back. We do have our own well. It's not shared, 5,000 gallon tank that we have on that to ensure we have plenty of water for the property here. So the well water that we have, it does come from the Hacienda River. So we have an aquifer underground under us here for the Whitman area. So it's all from that river. And our well, I think, is down 600 feet that they had to drill for the well, and then hit that water level at about 450. So big difference between like well water, city water. There is the chlorine in the water in the city. well water out here doesn't have that. You could actually drink the water from the tap. I have a lot of people that I've met out here that are totally fine with just filling it up from the tap. We do have a filter system on our whole house. So just cleaner taste, I guess. We have never run out of water. You do hear about wells drying up, so that is a possibility, but the water is so far down that I don't think that's gonna be anytime soon that we'll run out. We could probably drain our tank, but that's why we went with such a big tank that way we don't. And we have our irrigation separated to where we don't water everything at the same time. So we do it in groupings so that we don't run out either. So we are out here in the desert, and doesn't seem like it would be water out here, but there is. It's underground, so travels from wherever up north, travels down through that river, basically underground, and that's where we draw from. All right, up here close to the house, we have our mulberry and blackberry area. So we've got 4 Shangri-La mulberries, 2 contorted mulberries, and a Persian mulberry, and then 4 different blackberry bushes that we have up here. One actually that we did take from a pup from the other property as well. And mulberry trees grow like crazy. So this growth, we did trim them back when we pruned them in the fall, and this is just all new growth since it started growing in the last really month. We have our outbuilding that we did put in. We have our tractor in there and all the equipment for the property that we keep in there. That was a must for us. Yeah, this side has a bunch of fruit on this side. They're just not ripe yet. So we've got it all along here. And these Shangri-Las, they're not as big as the Pakistan, so they're usually about this big when they're ripe. And then it's that sweet blackberry flavor that you get with the mulberries. And here's one here that's just starting to kind of turn red. And then the blackberry over here is flowering and fruiting. This is one of our blackberry bushes here. So it's got flowers and fruit all on that. And we do put the little caging up around here because of the rabbits. So the rabbits will get in here and eat that if we don't. So we did our blackberries in like little raised garden beds, and that's just so that we can try to contain them, because they do start sending out runners and shoots and will start just coming up other places. So that's our way to try to contain it, and again, so we can cage it for the rabbits to keep them away. This one, we have it by itself because it will literally just start, anything that drops down, it'll grow another like branch of the bush. It grows like crazy. So we do have this area just right outside of the house because we will visit it every day. We have 46 grapevines that we planted around the entire garden area. And I think we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different varieties. So grapes, we do like to eat grapes fresh. We do juice every morning, so we put some in our juice. And then we also make wine with them. And then our garden beds, we don't have much going on in the garden beds right now. Our winter garden beds, some of the plants are actually bolting. They're going to flower. So we're gonna let those go on their own. But we do still have some things that we're harvesting. We have beets in here. We have kale, lettuce, a purple lettuce, spinach, garlic, and actually a cauliflower left. And we actually just planted in the third bed some zucchini seeds. So we will have zucchini for this spring. So for our grapevines, some of them will be spur pruned, some cane pruned, but all of them will actually grow. We have a 3-foot level here that we will do our cordons or canes that will lay on this. You do see down here, we have, this is for our irrigation. So we did raise that up off of the ground and it actually drips down instead of doing it underground. Have problems with, rodents or rabbits that like to chew the wiring. So we wanted to get that up off of the ground. So we did that here. And then from this 3-foot level, when these start to grow, they will grow up to the 6-foot level, attach up here, And then that's where we'll have our green and fruit coming from this 3 to 6 foot level here. This is one of our garden beds. See, we actually do have caging on it for birds because we do have a lot of birds out there. So we just have EMT pipe that we created a frame. We put hardware cloth on the ends and then actually bird netting on the sides. So then all we do is just unclip it and then we can lift this up to actually get in and harvest or whatever we need to do in here. And then, like I said, right now we do still have some kale. We've got some green leaf lettuce. We've got beets, spinach. But this is really easy for us to get in here and harvest and do what we need to do in there. And then it keeps the birds out with the netting. We did raise it so that rabbits couldn't get in. And then we do also have hardware cloth on the bottom underneath so that things can't dig up under the bed as well. All right, so heading up towards the front of the house, we do have our chickens out here. Chicken pasture that we have for them. I think it's about 6,000 square feet that we put in for them. They like to be outside in the sun. And then we've got our broiler chickens over here, the meat birds, which we do need to split them up. They're kind of filling up the tractor a little bit. So we will actually do 2 tractors to separate them as they grow bigger. It's actually really cool. I think the whole thing of, just growing your own food and is just cool. So we have the bird bath. I think there was a couple of bees actually. We get bees that like to come in here and get water. We have the rocks in the center, which we learned from one of our viewers, to help them stay out of the water and not drown. So we do get that loaded with bees during the summertime, which is great for our fruit trees, for pollinating those. The straw we have here, we do throw it in the chicken run. They like to scratch at it, get any seeds out of it. It helps keep, manure smell down in there as well. We also use it as a covering when we seed like the pasture, and we seeded the old pig area that we had. We'll actually put the straw down so that hopefully keep the seeds there and not the birds eating all the seeds. So, and it helps keep like water in the ground too for the new seeds coming up. All right, and then the front here we do have some kumquats, 4 kumquat trees up here that we have on the north side of the chicken run. Just kind of block that out, make a little hedge of those. And then at the front of the property, I really wanted green up here year round. So we did do all of our citrus, loquats, and guavas up here that will stay nice and green. So we have quite a few varieties. We have mandarins, grapefruit, pomelo, some oranges, lime, lemon. So a little bit of everything as far as the citrus that we have. Good variety. We have caracara, which is an orange, and then we also have a variegated caracara, which is pretty cool. We actually, including the grapevines and the berries, we have 170 that we put in the ground in the last year. Most of it, we do juice and do smoothies every day, so most of it we'll consume. We will sell some to our customers that we have. We make wine with it, so we do freeze that and kind of use it year round when it's not producing, and then sell some of it. As far as wine, you can actually do wine with any fruit. We've made apple wine, we've made pomegranate wine, we've made peach wine, plum wine, blackberry wine. So you can do wines with a lot of that, and we enjoy doing wines. It's not just grapes that you can do that with.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoy our documentaries as much as we enjoy making them. Unfortunately, many of our videos don't earn enough YouTube revenue to afford the cost of production. But if you like our content, the best thing you can do is directly support it on Patreon. Plus, you'll get access to behind-the-scenes vlogs and commentary. If you're looking for something more in return, go to paragraphic.io where you can buy our other products and services. Alternatively, you can shop our Amazon storefront for our favorite equipment recommendations. Also, check out Boca, where you can find beneficial supplements to optimize your productivity. We especially love the lion's mane and mushroom gummies. And finally, consider signing up to Multitude, a platform built for long-form content, where you and other content creators can share and monetize new videos every week.